I'd like to reconvene this Fairfield City Council meeting, and we'll go immediately to public comments, please. Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
Public comment, Nora Deason.
Is that microphone working? Did we get the microphone working up here up front?
Working.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I just want to comment that we're noticing we're in very strange times, very stressful times, but we notice that there's, I think, a positive change where there's more communication with people and more concern about the welfare of our businesses that are struggling right now. And I just wanted to make sure to say thank you, and we hope that this is the start of a very positive direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Nora. Next, please, Madam Clerk.
Jeff Traeger.
Wanted to bring on the 29th of August is going to utilize the courtyard for productions and music events. Dave Spearing wanted to make sure you all were aware this is going to be safely done. Okay, we're going to start off with productions, Day and Friends, and then we're going to have Rosalind Pugh and her group and other events. Be 3 weeks in a row, and that's going on again, like I said, at the courtyard at the Downtown Theater. Also, Jeff Traeger Presents is going to start doing live streaming from the theater, starting with the world famous Sun Kings Beatles tribute. That's this Saturday night, 8 o'clock. You can go to FT Presents and you can see the show. It's free. You just go buy the tickets. And we've got a lineup, Lenny Williams and Confunction and people like that lined up to come in and perform on stage, but it's live stream. So I just want to let you know what we're doing there. So thank you so much. The tickets for the courtyard, please call the downtowntheater.com and they'll give you all the details.
Good news indeed. Thank you.
Cameron Canoli. Did I pronounce your last name correct?
Oh, we're going in order.
Oh, okay.
Can you guys hear me with the mask on? Is that fine? Cool, okay. Good evening, Mayor Price and other City Council members. I'm Robin Violanda from Youth for Visions, and I speak on behalf of me and my colleagues. I would like to provide context to the situation that I'm about to talk about and give you guys an understanding of why we're here today. Through the months of February, down Green Valley Road in Cordelia and noticed chalkings of Nazi symbols backed up by phrases like, "Make America Great Again," "The virus is a hoax," and since the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, we have also recognized the victims of police brutality by writing their names in chalk on sidewalk, and the word convict has been written over those names, over the innocent Black lives that have been taken. This is obvious slander and acts of hatred. In the months of June through July, we as a community took the initiative to erase these messages and eventually write our own positive messages directed towards the Black Lives Matter movement, such as naming victims of police brutality and writing Black Lives Matter. Not even a day later, these messages were defaced and the responses were all lives matter and obey the law. This was the beginning of what neighborhood members were calling the Chalk War. On August 4th, Youth for Visions took a team of young adults, oldest being 19, to cover the sidewalks of the Lower Green Valley Trail with chalk. We successfully covered 200 yards of pavement of messages supporting the movement, such as No Justice, No Peace, Justice for Breonna Taylor, Hate Costs Law. On August 5th, our work was washed away. In less than 24 hours, the City of Fairfield has been called due to the backlash by neighbors on the Nextdoor app disapproving of our public art demonstration, labeling it as offensive or threatening. On August 13th, after the incident, we created a project called Chalk the Streets. We organized another chalking in the same place in response to the community and the city. We wanted to use this opportunity as a chance to educate and spread positivity. And in less than 20 minutes of starting our chalk work, initially saying that they were going to get rid of the quote-unquote graffiti that we have been creating. They pulled their truck onto the sidewalk, which is full of children and young adults. We have continuously asked these workers their names or the names of their supervisor, but all they would respond is the City of Fairfield. When asked why they were there, they kept saying that they were going to remove the quote-unquote graffiti and refusing to see it as a public art demonstration done by youth with chalk. They told us that they would return to remove the graffiti after we had finished. These workers left without giving us their names, the name of their supervisor, any contact information, or any reason for us to believe that we were doing something wrong. And thank you. I would like to pass the mic on to my friend Cameron Canoli.
Good evening. I am Youth for Vision's member Cameron Canoli, and now we come to the climax, to the crux of the issue on August 14th. So in order to preserve our a group of young adults camped out onto the public path, and due to the previous events regarding the chalk work, we had suspected the city officials would come again to power wash the chalk. We wanted to confront the city officials who were adamant about censoring our message and removing our work. Our suspicions were confirmed when City of Fairfield workers came in less than 24 hours with 2 different trucks to power wash those sidewalks of our public art demonstration. Again, we were met with no response when we asked for their names, and again, we asked for their names of their supervisors, and they gave no response. Might I add that 2 of the 6 workers on site were not wearing masks, nor were they upholding social distancing standards. Messages like Black Lives Matter is equality for all and justice for Kaylee Jefferson were being erased. These messages were washed off by city workers who drove a truck full of soap and water to pour onto the path. They were driving recklessly at 15 to 25 miles per hour on a pedestrian path. This is a very popular trail for residents of Green Valley, particularly those in the Lakeshore and Eastridge neighborhoods. Having city workers clean the path without any cones to indicate that public work was being done is an infringement on the community safety. I would also like to point out that a police car was hiding and watching us. If there was a legal issue, why didn't the officer come to speak to us? Is it necessary to have a police officer watching us so intently when they could be spending time, resources, and money protecting the community? Last time I checked, chalk is not at all dangerous unless you find some teens with chalk threatening. Why does the immediate removal of chalk take priority when our tax dollars could be used to help the areas of the community that are being neglected? I would also like to note that one of the officers took a photo of our license plates on his personal phone without permission, and when confronted, he would not give his name or any reason as to why he did so. When he finally asked for a phone number to reach out to their supervisor, we were met with excuses like he had to get home and he had to be off soon. The lack of empathy and transparency between the community and the city only creates distrust. How are we able to exercise our First Amendment right without knowing if we have the support and protection of our own city officials? Again, I will remind you that we are only high school students and recent graduates. First Amendment rights because this is a country of freedom that allows us to seek change when we see injustices. This has led us to the legalization of gay marriage, the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act, women's suffrage, and so much more. Though we are grateful for those rights today, they face opposition in their time. We understand that censorship is a form of protection so that we do not promote hate speech, bigotry, and discrimination. But I will remind you in this well-known quote by human activist Desmond Tutu, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. Do we want Fairfield to stay neutral? You have the chance as our leaders to promote change. To end racial discrimination, you have the chance to have Fairfield set precedent for other cities, to show the rest of the state, to show the rest of the nation, rather than to stay silent. I would like to ask the council, what side of history will you be on? Thank you, and I yield my time.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, there may be additional comments about this. When those comments are through, I would like to respond to some of the things that were.
Thank you.
Are you Jace? Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Price, council members. My name is Jace, a member of Youth for Visions. We acknowledge our privilege is what allows us to speak to you today. We are alive and well. We also acknowledge that political stances are only opinions and everyone in town. Nazi symbols and writing the word convict over the names of deceased are not opinions, is antagonism. The biggest problem we face in our community is ignorance and the lack of empathy. Change starts in our small groups. We must tackle these pressing issues such as racism in our communities so that change everywhere is even possible. Now we must ask all of you here today, what can we do? We lack unity in our community, but now we stand together weekly in peaceful protest. There is still an abundance of misinformation and written displays of hatred. So we did our research on Black Lives Matter movement, ACAB, and Black history. And just like we did as children, we wrote in chalk. Now, was it the fact that we were graffitiing and washable chalk that drew the grounds for our work to be washed away? If that were the case, we'd see the public works out there washing away the hopscotch or doodles a child would draw. Or was it the fact that we were only openly writing about what would some would classify as controversial matter, that you're openly saying Black Lives Matter and calling for a reform, the true reason for why our work was washed away. So what can we do? Right now, education is our greatest tool. We acknowledge that your job may entail you to censor us, but realize that you may choose to stay neutral. You are choosing the side of the oppressor. By censoring this information, realize it is furthering promoting ignorance in our community, ignoring what is happening in the world we live in today. It's a heavy topic, yes, but is it truly controversial? Are people's lives and the call for equality truly controversial? So, to the legislators of Fairfield, we want change. I stand before you because the diverse youth of this are belittled and invalidated. Our message while used in politics is not inherently political. Fear of violence is legitimate and should be addressed instead of being ignored through a farce of neutrality. In a status quo which suffering is the norm, censorship and neutrality are the side of the oppressor. Do better. Your public servants need to prioritize the community and wear masks. They need to be transparent in their behavior. And most importantly and obviously, they should be not infringing on our First Amendment rights without proper cause. Public service workers should be uplifting and bettering the community. At the end of the day, if washable chalk is done by the community for the community is too radical for a message, provide us with a separate outlet. Move forward in an ethical and efficient manner. We won't be silenced any further. I yield my time.
Thank you.
Maria Rico Osornio? No?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Maria Rico Sornio. So in light of Justin Joseph being hired to the Fairfield Police Department, I had a couple questions in regards to the psychological test that these officers go through. To start off, though, I would like to add that the hiring of Justin Joseph really brings into question the hiring practices and the quality, quote-unquote, quality of these officers that are being allowed on our city's force. The background checks that are involved in the hiring process, I should mention, and it's concerning that Fairfield Police Department missed these red flags, and it makes us, me, a citizen, and many other citizens question were missed with potentially other officers. I know that last time the chief was able to answer my questions. I'm not sure if he could be called up at this moment. Okay.
Mayor, we would receive comments, and then any response will be later after the comments are over.
Well, the questions I had was, with this being said, as far as I'm aware, the psychological assessments that these police officers go through are done after the officers are hired. So the MMPI-2 is a self-report exam. I was going to ask what is done other than this self-examination to determine the psychological aptitude of a police applicant. Anyone who can answer to that?
Again,
Next question.
once the comments are over, we can address some of these if the council chooses. This is a public comment period, so I would say continue to
Correct.
address
Last time
your
I had a
issues,
public.
and then we can have some folks respond to that.
Okay, it's just, I was wondering, because last time I had a public comment, the chief was able to answer my questions at the moment.
Yeah, ordinarily, it's at the end of a public comment.
Okay,
So,
well,
thank you.
yes, I'll continue with my questions then. Next question, how does a psychological assessment measure any racial bias? Other question, what in the interview process is done to check for the police officers' racism, xenophobia, and et cetera? Next question, what during the interview process is done to determine how an officer would act during states of high stress? An interview scenario is not exhibition. And last question, how often are psychological assessments performed on police officers during their time on the force, given that the one's psychological aptitude is affected by those workload and type of work that one does? Should an officer fail during their time, would they be removed? Actually, in print in case they weren't written down or in case they were forgotten. I yield my time.
Thank you.
Stephen or Stefan L.?
Assalamu alaikum. First, I wanted to say happy birthday to Marcus Garvey, belated. Happy birthday to Marcus Garvey. This is his colors in the name of African liberation. Really, I want to talk about is really strictly for Black people, so I really don't want to offend anybody that's not Black here. One thing I wanted to say is that we need a program to teach Black young kids, boys and girls, men and women both, to understand where cops come from. Everybody needs to understand that before cops were called cops, they were called slave patrollers. Not to offend cops here, but we need to know the truth, why slave patrollers at the time, and to become cops after slavery was abolished. The fact that the way you guys treat Black people stemmed from being slave patrollers. Not to say all cops do it, but some cops actually do treat Black people as enslaved. That's just reality. If you don't like it, leave the job. If you do like what I just said, maybe you should teach other cops that you know for a fact are treating black people in a wrongfully way and show them a light that it should not be a racial thing when you see a black dude with a gun in his car, and maybe respectfully go to him and try to see if it's that his gun or not. But with that said, like I said about we need to teach our people, kids, boys, girls, that if we continue on what we're doing without what we're doing right now without teaching history, we continue history. It doesn't make any sense. Martin Luther King said before he actually passed away in his last speech was, how can we're the people who beat us on a daily basis will never change. How about we unite as one and change ourselves, economically, spiritually, and mentally? Malcolm X, before he passed away, one of his best speeches is, and what he said was, before there can be a black-white unity, there needs to be a black unity. Yes, we have problems in the black community. I would never call it black-on-black crime. I would call it misguided people that goes towards each other in a violent way. But I bet you right now, if they knew history as we were gods before anything else, they wouldn't do it. White people were calling us gods before we were calling them gods. It's the fact that black Jesus was a black man before there was a white Jesus created. And it'd be Christians to say, well, it's not about color. If that's the fact, why is every church that we go to, there's a white Jesus? We go to black churches and there's white Jesus. It doesn't make any sense. Not to bring anybody down here to say because I'm calling us black, it's just reality, we were here first. A lot of black people don't know that. A lot of black people don't even know that black people were here 2 million years before the Native Americans. A lot of black people don't know that it was black people that actually helped Christopher Columbus get here. That's a bad thing to say, but a lot of black people don't even know the fact that a black woman ran. A lot of black people don't know that another black woman
And
ran
would you
for
conclude,
vice
please?
president.
Would you conclude, please?
Like I always say, every black man and woman needs to get their CCW and protect themselves in the community they live in and respect everybody who look like you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last speaker, George Gwynn.
Good evening. Wish this microphone was a little bit higher. Maybe I should hold it to make it a little bit easier so I don't have to bend over. This wasn't what I was originally going to talk
George,
about.
George, you don't have to bend over.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. It'll catch your
Oh, good.
It'll catch.
Anyway, it's interesting. If you go to the public library and you check out a book, you wouldn't mark the book up and expect not to have to pay a fine. Other people need to be able to read the book, and it's also damaging to the book if you have people do the artwork or whatever on it. It seems to me that people that do artwork on public property are doing the same sort of thing. It's going to take time, and that equals money for people to return the sidewalk or the street or whatever to the condition it was before. So I'm really surprised that you guys have to deal with something like this. I've been going to meetings for over 20 years, and I've never heard this before. This is the first. I really think you guys have a lot more important things to deal with. For instance, the unfunded liability for the pension program. I think you really need to be doing everything you can to get up to 100% on that, because people aren't going to be too happy when they get ready to retire if there's not money to cover their pension. And also, there's a lot of other things that are going on. The economy's in the doldrums right now because of COVID, and it doesn't look like it's going to go away tomorrow. It's going to be a while. And I really hope you guys limit the way you spend money to things that are really important and you have to have at the moment, because otherwise you could end up being either close to bankruptcy or actually bankrupted, because there's a lot of companies like Neiman Marcus that really had tons of bucks, and they're in bankruptcy now. And unless you can print money, which last time I checked, only the feds can do, it's not going to be that easy to get money. You're going to ask the public for money, and if the public doesn't have the money, good luck with getting more money. So once again, I hope you guys really are watching your nickels, dimes, pennies. Thank you very much.
Question to speak, cards, Mr. City Manager?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to address the trail system and the chalk art and the things that the Public Works Department went out there and washed. I think it's fair to say, first of all, I'm responsible for that. So as you're pointing fingers at the Public Works folks and you're wanting names and who's your supervisor, that was under my direction. So be mad at me, not them. They're doing what they're doing. The reason that we do that, I support art. I love the idea of having, and I've been involved in that before, where they do chalk art and chalk art kinds of events areas, and they allow the creativity to come out and messages to be born, and those are wonderful things. Generally, when those types of events happen, they are coordinated with the cities so that we can, in a way that doesn't impede on others who are wanting to utilize that area for what it was originally intended for. So, for example, trails are intended for walking and biking and exercise. When we allow for any message to be written on trails, we have to allow for all messages. So when you talk about a First Amendment right, you're right, but this doesn't become a First Amendment right. We're not trying to impede your right to voice your opinion. It is a public defacement of public property, whether it's in chalk or paint or paper mache or whatever. It costs money to go out there and clean that off. We clean those things off when complaints come into the office on that. The first speaker, I think, said it very well, that there were different messages being written on that in that area, on the trail, and other things that were just horrible. That I hope very few people support. I certainly don't support some of the horrible messages that you talked about that you wanted to go in and fix and scroll over. And I appreciate that desire to do that. But you're right, then what happens is we get into a chalk war. It's the same reason that I advise the council not to allow messages to be painted into the public streets. It's not that we're against the message. I'm afraid lives matter. I will tell you right now, I'm learning that better every day. They do matter, and we need to address that. We need to be sensitive to that. We need to recognize that. The problem is that when we allow our public right-of-ways to become that kind of an expression when it's made for streets, we now have to open it up to other kinds of messages that, boy, we may not want out there. And we can't do that. Constitutionally, we can't. We get into trouble. So when we're dealing with chalk out on the trail systems, regardless of what it says, unless it's been something that we've been able to coordinate with you, like you've come in and said, we've got this great idea for some kind of an event, I'm all for taking a look at those opportunities and working with you or other groups that want to do that. But it is something that has to go through the system and determine, okay, can we allow this? Are we going to get into a situation where we're again into these chalk wars or messaging wars? You allow one message, you generally allow another message. Very similar to advertising as well. When we have, oftentimes when you get into recreation, sports and things, you have to be careful about allowing advertisements and things on fences and public property, because if you allow one, if there's a certain individual who wants to put money down and advertise something else that maybe is not community friendly or is not the kind of message you want, you start to run into problems when you say no to one and yes to another. That's when you really get into the violation of First Amendment right, because it has to be an equal right across the board, even if you don't like what's being said. So it was my direction to do that. So I'm the one to be mad at. I'm willing to listen to you. If you want to come up to my office and talk or call and talk about it, I'm more than open. If you'd like to sit down and talk about, is there some way that we can do this and have a gathering of the youth with these wonderful messages and this great creativity and getting these messages out, please, let's talk about it and find out if there's a way that we can do that. But the Public Works guys, they're just trying to do their job, and it's a hard job sometimes. It's tough, and so it's my fault. So please direct that at me, and let's see if we can't work together, if there's a way that we can do it otherwise. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Any colleagues, comments? So we'll go back to council reports, please. And we'll start with
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman White. Go ahead, please.
this is Pam Bertani. I'd like to make a comment. This is Pam.
Go ahead.
This is Pam Bertani. I'd like to make a comment.
Can you get closer to the telephone, please? We're having a terrible time hearing you.
Pam Bertani. I'd like to make a comment.
Can you get closer to the telephone, please?
Yeah, I'm as close. It's up to my mouth. It's as close as I can be. Yeah, it's up to my mouth. It's as close as I can be.
So Pam, if you'll turn your TV all the way down, that will help with the background noise, and then we'll be able to hear you hopefully much better. And we'll get through this
Okay, can you hear
technical
me
issue.
now?
Yes, ma'am.
Much better.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the speakers And to the city manager, I think that what we need to be mindful of is what I think I heard from some of the speakers, which is, you know, what my mom used to say, God bless her soul, sometimes it's not what you say, but it's the way that you say it. Sometimes it's not what you do, but the way that you do it. And I don't want any of these minutes that we are disregarding the importance of what they are trying to do for the city, for God's sake. It's the 21st century. These folks are our leaders for tomorrow. And so I would hope that the staff of the city of Fairfield is really mindful of that, really mindful of how you treat people. You know, I mean, so maybe we have to wash the or whatever it is, but we do it in a way that is respectful, that is mindful of the fact that we need to listen to the voices of our young folks because they are our future. They really are. And they're making a gallant effort to make their voices heard. And so I just want to make sure that, Mr. City Manager, that our Parks and Rec or whoever it is, that they have the proper, you know, training and the proper protocol for making sure that we treat our residents with respect and that we understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to make this community a better place. And that's what I perceive from them. And that's the bottom line for me. So, you know, moving forward, like you said, Mr. City Manager, have them come and speak with you and, you know, negotiate whatever can be negotiated. But at the same time, you know, having them feel like they're being unduly, you know, scrutinized for what they're doing, I don't support that, not at all. So I just wanted to put that comment on the record that we need to, that we're treating all of our folks with dignity and with respect. And then let me just say also that I'm watching the city council meeting right now and it keeps cutting out on channel 26. So I don't know what technically that means, but I'm just saying that it's kind of difficult to watch these meetings on the television. And so I'll be quiet for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Council reports, please. Who would like to begin? Councilman Vaccaro, please.
Yeah. You know, Pastor Morris talked about what he plans on doing. I think it's great. I did visit this navigation center in Placentia about a week ago. The city manager there actually took me for a tour. And it was really, like I said, I was very impressed, first of all, because we talk a lot about our homeless situation here in Fairfield and the county. I talked to Dawn about this earlier. And what I left with was they had created a home. It was more than just it wasn't really a shelter. They call it a shelter, but it's really, actually they call it a navigation center because there are people that are referred there and they stay there for 6 months, but they can stay even longer if they want, depending on how they can leave at 7 in the morning and they have to come back at 9 o'clock at night. If they don't come back at 9 o'clock at night, there is a chance that they won't be allowed back in, but usually they are, according to the people that work there. It was interesting. It's like I said earlier, Pastor Morris's facility is a lot nicer as far as the way it looks. This really wasn't, but it still had that really good feeling when you went in there. People were really happy to be there because it was a roof over their head. And I did talk to Dawn earlier about maybe the two of us talking about it, and actually Pastor Morris would like to get together with us. And I think the real goal here is a long-term solution. I know this solution is till December, the end of December, but we have to really be looking into the future more Because if we're going to solve this problem at all, put a dent in the problem, then I think we have to really start looking at different solutions. For me, going there it wasn't a solution, but it really gave me food for thought. And not only that, they do partner with other cities. Here's our problem with that. I'm not sure other cities want to, it's hard. We're in that kind of environment where I'm not sure if we can partner with other cities. We might be able to, but as Pastor Morris said to me earlier, look, he said, I care about Fairfield, and I think we all do. It would be great if we could partner with other cities. I mean, I would take that, but I'm not sure. Dawn, you probably know more than I because you work with other cities on the homeless situation. They do have a strong relationship with 4 or 5 other cities, so they have 2 or 3 different navigation centers. But I would like to I would definitely like to put this on the agenda at some point after we meet and talk, or maybe, down the road. I know you want to have a homeless retreat at some point, correct? Sometime in the future. Maybe by then, we can start to discuss this as a long-term possibility. Because this just opened up in March, and there's 98 people living there. And like I said, it was extremely impressive. So, Mr. Mayor, what I'd like to do is definitely, I want to meet with Dawn and Pastor Morris, but then maybe put this on the agenda in the near future to talk more about it. If you could take a trip down there and look at it and see what they're doing. Like I said, I took the whole afternoon to just kind of tour it and talk to the people there, talk to the citizens that live there, and definitely going to go back and see it again. So that's really my only report. I know this is unusual, actually, because we usually report in the beginning. I feel like after this, we got a whole nother council meeting to do, but I guess we don't. Okay, that's the end of my report. I just want to let everybody know about this
And thank you,
navigation
Councilman.
center.
And I'll work with the city manager, and we'll figure out a time when we can get together.
Yeah, definitely want to do that. I think it would help.
Councilman Tim, please, your report.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to piggyback on what Rick's talking about and continue this conversation. When I asked if this was open for Fairfield residents, I have some very strong concerns that when other cities find that what we're doing, that we're going to gather the brunt of their homeless in their cities. And I don't discount Suisun because I know Suisun, they are faced with some very severe financial problems, and I would consider them a sister city to us. But what I'm curious about is I'd like to know the bookings from Solano County Jail, from allied agencies, specifically Vacaville, on how many people they book in their jail for misdemeanors and that are almost released immediately. And it's not anything for tomorrow, but when we have our workforce or our shop. And the reason is we hear things. And what I hear is that Vacaville doesn't want to help. And I'm not throwing my colleagues under the bus from there, not at all, but I want to know the truth. And then last week I noticed in the paper where Vacaville had an opportunity to submit for $50,000 for the upkeep, the room key or whatever, and Vacaville declined to do it. And I don't know if it was miscommunication or they didn't get it done, but we have asked this before if it can just be Fairfield residents or Fairfield Suisun, and initially we were told no, we had to open it up to everybody. And I want to ensure that we will continue to.
Were you out there?
Hey, can you mute your phone, please, Kat?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. That we're not just going to be a dumping ground while we're trying to handle ours. And I don't know if the sheriff can give us these numbers, but I would imagine that it wouldn't be too difficult. I know we spend about $4,000 a month in our return taxi service, and I'm really curious to see where they go. Now, I saw the dashboard thing, but I don't have it in front of me. But if I remember, a lot go back to Vacaville, and I understand that. Vallejo, I'm not sure. I don't know what Vallejo does, but this is what I kind of want to look at is there are homeless. We're taking care of our problem. We're not inviting and increasing our problem. Does that make sense? Stefan, I guess that's probably, I don't want to pass you guys, like I said, not tomorrow, but the numbers are the numbers, and they'll be the same a month from now as they are today. So,
That may be
okay.
assignment, so.
Okay, I'll shut up. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have to say.
Councilman Moy, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, first, I just wanted to say to all of our employees who are working out in the heat, our firefighters, our police, who every single day are taking bad people, criminals off the street and guns. Every single day they're putting something out. It's amazing. And they're doing this in the heat and with heavy vests on and so on. And the people like Public Works going out in the heat and repeatedly doing things. Everybody who's in and out. I appreciate everybody. And I needed to say that with all the fires, with everything going on. It's stressful for everybody. And our employees just keep going. And the next thing I wanted to talk about was today is the 100th year of women being able to vote. Now, that's nationwide. And I had asked for this to be put on the agenda so we could have a resolution or something, but somehow that did not happen. But I wanted to bring up the people who here in Fairfield, the women who were really, I and Pam stand on their shoulders. And there have only been 7 women in the 164 years of the city who have served and been elected on the city council. The first, Mr. Mayor, was in 1972, Robbie Burberger. And I went to school with her daughter, and I always remember being so proud that this woman had been elected. And I didn't understand how difficult that was until I tried it myself. And then, of course, we had Joy Pettigrew. We had Marilyn Farley, Marina Reagan, and Karen McMillan, who happens to be, so far, the only woman who's been elected to mayor. And then me, and then Pam. And so it's a very small number of women who've served this city over the 164 years. And I think we're making a major impact. I like to think so. Not just because we bring something different. And I'm appreciative to everybody who supported me, starting with, Chuck Pam, from the very beginning. And it's just like, wow, it's really something when you look back. And I did a lot of research actually on this, but I'm not going to go into all of it. I was hoping that we would have a resolution, but that didn't work out. So anyway, for suffrage, for women, for everybody who's been held down for whatever reason, I celebrate that today. And then the last thing is, Mr. Mayor, we had a horrible thing happen to one of our own on Sunday. Nathan Garza was gunned down. He's just graduated from Rodriguez High School, and he was at work helping people shop at down in American Canyon. And some man, and so I'm asking, Mr. Mayor, that today that we close the meeting in Nathan's name and send our love and our support to his family and his friends and all of Rodriguez, all of the people there. They're so devastated. And I'm just so sorry that this kind of thing would happen to a beautiful, beautiful being. So please, Mr. Mayor, if we could close tonight in that, I would appreciate it. And that's it. Thank you.
Great minds running the same channel. Yes, we will be adjourning in Nathan's honor and memories. Thank
And Mr. Mayor, real quick, I need to apologize to Councilmember Moy. She did approach me on that resolution. I dropped the ball on that one. That slipped through my fingers. We'll get with both Councilmember Moy and Bertani and legal counsel and get a resolution put together for the next council member meeting. And my apologies, Councilmember Moy, I did drop that one.
It's all right. We have a lot going on.
you. Question. How many in attendance here this evening know the lady who is responsible for women's gaining the right to vote 100 years ago? Could you raise your hands, please? What's her middle initial? Susan D. Anthony. Thank you very much. Madam Vice Mayor, your report, please. Well, thank you. And I should just like to report that one of the most impressive community activities where people come together annually to do some good for others occurred on Saturday over at the mall. And that event, of course, was the annual Fairfield Tucson Unified School District Resource Fair, the backpack. And what a joy that was. Our firefighters, our police officers, public works directors, and staff were there. But one of the most impressive statistics was the fact that 1,400 backpacks were donated to those families. Most of them were in their own vehicles and they were driving through, and it was very well organized. Nobody was impatient. It took a bit of time and it was very, very hot, but it was wonderful. Fairfield.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt your report. I just wanted to say I'm here and I have a report as well.
Yeah, let me finish mine and I'll come back, Madam Vice Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Fairfield police officers served 1,100 hot dogs. Police officers were doing that. Firefighters were there and they were in uniform. Hot as it was, but they stayed. And there were lots of volunteers who came not only from the city of Fairfield, but elsewhere in the county to participate in that event. If you've never been to the resource fair, it's really worth taking a look at how democracy functions, where everybody is treated equally. Happy children left there, delighted parents. It was a wonderful experience. So thank all of you who were there and who helped make that possible. So thank you. Madam Vice Mayor, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to join in with my colleagues on basically everything they reported on this evening. And I want to add that I will be conducting a virtual town hall meeting on homelessness on Saturday, August 29th. Saturday, August 29th. And then I will be hosting a virtual town hall meeting for Fairfield District 6 on September the 12th. Those are both Saturdays. So we've got August 29th, that's a Saturday, and we have September 12th, that's a Saturday. Both virtual town hall meetings for us to get together and talk about the issues that matter on, number one, homelessness, and number two, on issues that affect my district, District 6. And I just want to thank my colleagues. I'm very proud to hear your reports tonight. Rick, Chuck, Catherine, Mr. Mayor, really proud to hear your reports tonight on everything that you've been doing to make the city better. So that's my report. That's it.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Mr. City Manager, your report, please.
If we can, during my report, do we have the video ready? Let's go ahead, Mr. Mayor and Council, if it's okay for my report. We're just going to roll this quick video on the backpack giveaway that the mayor talked about. So just echoing, Mr. Mayor, your comments, it's the second weekend in a row, actually, with backpack handouts and mask giveaways and those kinds of things. The prior week, we did another one at the, thank you, Bethel Community Church, Bethel Community, and 750 backpacks, a lot of masks and other things. These are, and this is an annual thing, so this wasn't special for just this year. I think this is probably one of the biggest years, though. More people this year than any previous year that we've done this, which I think indicates that there's a real need out here. As we get, there's a huge need. We have a lot of work to do. These are great, but also know that there's more we can do, and we're working towards that. So, thank you.
Fairfield's finest. Mr. City Manager, your report, please.
No report from the city attorney tonight.
Madam City Clerk, your report, please.
I just wanted to thank Melissa Vallis and the Vallis family for adopting a section of East Tabor Avenue. If anyone's interested in adopting a street, they can call 7767 or just Google Fairfield Adopt a Street program. And that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, before you close, I would be remiss if I didn't state that there were a lot of community partners out on this. Chambers of Commerce, the school district, many other wonderful partners. It was not just the city of Fairfield. It was not just our cops and our firefighters. We had a ton of people that were out there participating. It was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful community outreach.
There were folks from the County Office of Education, including an employee of the County Office of Education who was a big fan of Councilman Rick Vaccaro. She has 34 years of military service in the Air Force, and she is still serving. And we have one presentation, Madam Clerk, and I've been waiting all night for this one, if you would please.
Nixle update presented by Fire Deputy Chief Matt Lukenbach and Police Lieutenant Josiah Jacobson.
Were we still doing this, or did we decide to? Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I apologize. We asked that we move that later on. We knew we were getting compact today, and so we thought, sorry about that.
And I'm excited to, because I was looking forward to Nextel, so thank you very much. And again, we are adjourning tonight, as Councilman Moy suggested, the young man killed over in American Canyon working at a bush store. And there is a service tonight for him as well. So Nathan, your love. There is no other business before this body. We are adjourned until our next meeting on September 1st. And thank you very much for being part of it. Good night.